All right, so we were speaking about chokhmah, the what is usually translated as wisdom. We said chokhmah is also the ability to be in a constant state of learning, knowing that you never know. We spoke about how this chokhmah, this divine wisdom that can permeate a person because he's in a state of always wanting to learn and know, because he's a recipient. We spoke about how this divine wisdom can appear more fluidly in humble people. Humility is the key to that because if you're arrogant, if your ego has overcome you, then you're blocking that wisdom, that chokhmah that comes from above. So the more humble you are, the more of a recipient you can be to that wisdom. The more arrogant you are, the more egotistic you are, the less you can be. Now, we said that nonetheless, everyone has the capability and the capacity to be a recipient to that wisdom, even the lowest of the lows. And that is because at the end of the day, we each have a veritable part of God within us. Chelek Elokam Yimal Mamash, as the Tanya calls it. And therefore, if we can just dig deeper, dig deep within and find that soul, listen to that soul that really wants to be a recipient and that wants to connect with God and connect with God, not just to connect with God, but to connect with God so that it can draw down God, particularly that chokhmah, to this world and make this world a better place, then we can all achieve it. But it's a question again of being in tune, first and foremost, with our deeper self and being in tune then with God that connects to our deeper self. That's the general idea. But I suggest we continue. Middle of page 104. Does anyone want to read? Anyone? Otherwise, Margot, you are default reader.
Yes, I guess so. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you. Go for it.
sure. At times, sinners of Israel may even bring down very lofty souls which had been in the depths of the klipot, as explained in the Sefer HaGilgulim.
Mhm.
Although this note is somewhat of a non sequitur, it relates to that topic at hand, the essential holiness that is every Jew's legacy. The rule of thumb is that good for nothings with low level souls pass along similar souls to the next generation. On occasion, though, the script changes and a wholly mysterious process occurs. A sinful individual, the product of lineage seemingly totally removed from sanctity, brings forth a child with a pure, exalted soul. There are sources that describe the lofty nishamot that fall through the cracks between holiness and impurity. Captives of the klipa, they can escape only under unique circumstances. They are like rare gems buried in the garbage dump. Only one who frequents such places and refined individuals with holy souls avoid such unsavory locations will ever find them. It is only the sinners of Israel who are at home in such venues who can discover and extricate them. Among the great Jewish leaders in every generation were always those with the most unlikely parentage. One would be hard-pressed to find a more striking example of a noble soul with questionable pedigree than the Messiah, whose family tree is replete with episodes and relationships on the fringes of impurity. The story of Judah and Tamar, Ruth the Moabite, Naamah the Ammonite, descendants of Lot's daughters, a flawed lineage in and of itself, and the episode of David and Bathsheba. The
Mhm.
soul of the Messiah, which itself epitomizes the redemption of sanctity from the klippah, can be reached only through these unions that are the boundary between the sacred and the impure.
Right. I just want to pause here and I want to stress this because I think this is such an important point, particularly in education and in parenting. But you know, we have no say about the quality of the souls that we produce in our families or that we have in our under our responsibility, whether we're teachers or even just friends, souls of friends and of people in our social network that either happen to fall there or that we've pursued. We really have no say about the quality of those souls. It's God that decides which soul is going to be with which family and with which circle and with which friend and so on. Now, yes, sometimes we can immediately identify the souls of the righteous. Sometimes you're in the presence of someone and you know that there's something special about this person. And by the way, we see that with children the most because children have zero superficiality attached to them. There's no bias there. So immediately you can tell, oh, wow, today the expression is, oh, this child has an old soul. That's an expression I've heard many times. So you feel that particularly in the presence of children, which souls are really special and which souls are not that special. I mean, every soul is special, but come from, uh, uh, a special place. Adults are better at hiding themselves, right? We all know that. Uh, and therefore, it's harder in the presence of adults to really discern which souls are the highest of the highs and which are not. But that is God's domain. God decides which soul is going to be sent to which milieu. But what this is saying, I think, on a deeper level, is something very, very powerful. And that is that we, as parents, as educators, as friends, as nurturers of souls, we have uh, a tremendous responsibility not to try and impose some type of soul on other souls or some types of education of personality rather on other souls. But our task is more to be soul revealers, to reveal the soul that we have received within our own milieu as it is, not as we want it to be. Um, Sometimes we'll get a lowly soul, and we may know this, and we beat ourselves down all lifelong, saying, "Gosh, he's not listening to me. Gosh, this is a terrible soul." Uh, that's what God decided. God wanted him wanted that soul to be with you. So you just have to reveal that soul and make it the best it can be. It's not up to you to decide whether your children, your friends, your spouses will be the greatest of greats or not. You just have to reveal who they are, not who you want them to be. And I think it's an important key again. That's why I'm emphasizing this in education. We've said this many times, but we have a dear friend in our community, Dr. Ron Melmed, who often says that children don't come from us; they come through us. And this is true for children, and it's true for friends, again, for spouses, for any type of relationship. We don't make the people that are in our surroundings. We can reveal them, but we don't make them. They don't come from us; they come through us. Their personalities were already formed in the past. All we have to do is try and reveal the personality that God gave them, not that you're trying to give them. And again, some of these souls are the greatest of the souls, and they can appear in the most wicked of milieus. And some are the opposite, the wicked souls, not wicked souls, God forbid, but lowly souls, as he calls them here. And and they could appear in the most righteous of milieus. We see that in the founding story of our history. Abraham and Sarah had two sons, one that was certainly more righteous than the other, Isaac and Ishmael. Even the next generation, Yitzchak and Rivka, had two sons, Esav, who was a hunter, who was not on the level of Jacob. Two very different children coming from the same parents. Because again, God decides which soul you'll be receiving, and your task is to reveal that soul, not to try and impose something upon it that it is not. So I think it's a very important lesson when it comes to education. But just one more idea, and then I want to open this up because I shouldn't be the only one speaking, as I often say. But one more idea that I think connects very much to Passover, and that is that so far we've been speaking about souls that are given to us in our milieus. But I want to speak about the soul that we each have, because I think the only way we can become free, and if this is the theme of Passover, and it's called Chag HaCherut, the Festival of Freedom, is if we can discern what type of soul we each have. And sometimes we try to be that which we are not, instead of just trying to be that which God wants us to be. And one of the great Hasidic sayings says that if someone was born to be a diamond polisher and he becomes a baker, he might be the best baker in the world, but he missed his whole mission in life because he was supposed to be a diamond polisher. And vice versa is true. The best way to really become free is especially now on Passover, is to ask ourselves, who are we and who are we not? And how will we know the answers to that is first and foremost ask what type of gifts, what type of talents, what type of skills has God given us? And are we fulfilling those? What type of temperaments has God given us? What type of personalities has God given us? And are we fulfilling those? Because you cannot really set your soul free if you don't know what your soul is. So sometimes it demands a lot of work, not just days and weeks, but sometimes months. But it's something that we have to engage in, especially during this time of the year when we're celebrating freedom. This speaks to not just the souls in our milieus again, but to the very souls that we have. You know, today, everyone, we live in a day and age. I was speaking to my kids about this the other day, that everyone wants to change the world, right? We all want to have 1 million followers on Instagram, 1 million followers on TikTok, and okay, that's great. Good. That's a good ambition to have, to change the world. But sometimes what God wants of us is not to change the world. It's really just to change ourselves. The Tanya itself says that some souls are sent to this world really not to change the world around them, but to change themselves. That because of previous reincarnations, as it says here also, it alludes to it at least in Sefer Gilgulim. Before previous incarnations, these souls come down to repair the mess up that they did in previous lives. So they have to work on themselves. And they are given certain inclinations that are very hard for them to overcome, particularly because those are the inclinations that they have to overcome. And sometimes a person could spend 70, 80 years just to overcome one inclination. There's a great story about Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev, who was once approached by his students and said, look, did you hear about Moshe? Look at Moshe. He's 70 years old and he started desecrating the Shabbat. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev always found something good to say about people, said, wow, look how special Moshe is. For 70 years, his evil inclination was telling him, desecrate the Shabbat, desecrate the Shabbat. And he was able to be in full control of that evil inclination. What can I do? He finally gave in. But for 70 years, he was such a hero. But in many ways, this speaks to sometimes the mission of people. It's not to change the world, it's to change yourself, overcome that evil inclination to desecrate the Shabbat or whatever it may be. For 70 years, 80 years, you're given that. And that's what it's about. It's knowing what you are and what you are not. It's knowing what you have to do and what you have not to do, what you don't have to do. That's how we can really become free. If I try to be someone else my whole life, then I will have missed my purpose. But more than that, I will have imprisoned myself in this type of illusion. So
How do you really know what soul you're supposed to be?
That's what I was just going to ask. How do you know?
Well, we've spoken about the pop theory many times. I think everyone has to look at their talents and skills and ask themselves, am I developing them? Am I using them? Because if God gave you a gift, it's for you to use it. Imagine that someone gives you a gift and you lock it up. A nice gift, an unbelievable gift. Say, I don't know, an 8-carat diamond, and you lock it up. Not even in a see-through glass. You lock it up in a closet. And you never use it. You never wear it. It's horrible. How's the giver, as the giver of the gift, going to feel also about that? Well, God gives us gifts, and He wants us to use them. And some of us just lock them up in the closet. So that's number one. Number two, I think we also have to ask ourselves, what are our weaknesses? What are our evil? Where's our evil inclination trying to push us to? Because based on our weaknesses, we can see what we were sent here to repair. My weakness, for example, is gossiping, or I don't know, anger. And I have an inclination towards it. I gossip all the time, or I lie all the time, or I become angry all the time. Then that means that I was sent here to this world to repair that. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been difficult for me. The difficulties of our lives point to very much to the soul mission that we have. That's number two. And then number three, I think that throughout this journey of refinement, we have to remain open, because God will place opportunities in front of us. that we have to be open to because they're a part of our mission too. Opportunities that we can't plan for. It could be small opportunities, like helping the person that just fell in front of me, or it could be big opportunities, like saying yes to a project that's going to take 5 days, even though I had nothing in mind and have a busy schedule in front of me, and I still have to be open to it, be open to what God has in store for me. So, I don't think we can ever know fully what our life mission is and then dedicate ourselves to it for the next 50 years. But I think we can know what our life mission is for the next day, for the next week. And then slowly but surely build it brick by brick. Again, by utilizing our gifts, by overcoming our weaknesses and working on those, refining ourselves so that we can truly remove them from ourselves or at least overcome them. And 3, by staying open along the journey. And then at 120, you look back and you'll say, okay, I think I fulfilled my life mission. But yeah.
Is it perhaps the way to know how, like, listening to the inner voice that tells you what you're supposed to do, but you still don't want to do it, but you should do it? It's like coming from inside, like your guts, as they say,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can trust your guts. And if it's your guts, if it's your inner voice, if it's your soul speaking to you. But sometimes it's so boisterous that you can't really discern what is the inner voice and what's not. And I think that's why it's very important to have a mentor. Everyone, the ethics of our fathers tells us, make for yourself a mentor. And it's also very important to kne lecha chavera, as the Mishnah continues, to purchase for yourself a friend. To purchase for yourself a friend, that's the literal language. Not to get a friend, but to purchase. That means you have to invest in it.
Friend? How do you purchase it?
How do you purchase a friend? So
There's the price.
just like you have to invest in something. You have to invest in friendship. It's not just poking them or liking them on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
It's investing.
There is one friend.
That's it. Yes, Amy. Yeah.
Okay, we opened the discussion here today with you stating that we should reveal other souls as they are, not what you want them to be. You being a expert parent with a
I'm
lot
not
of
expert parent. Just ask my wife; she'll tell you.
but let's say you have a lot of experience. Can we agree on that? Okay.
Yeah, maybe a
So,
little bit. Yeah.
what's that?
Maybe a little bit. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So, where do you draw the line between allowing your children, and I mean grown adults and whatever, to reveal themselves versus guiding them against or guiding them away from things that are not to their benefit?
That's a great
Things
question.
or yeah.
I think that's a very good question. I think children need structure. They certainly need guidelines. And you have to have a very clear path for them of that can enable them to grow in their way so that they don't spread themselves and they lose themselves by spreading them. So they need guidelines. They need values that guide them. They need discipline that guides them. They need structure, again, that guides them. But within that structure, the content has to be theirs. Can be yours, right? So you can create, just to use a stupid analogy, but you can create a field. You can create a soccer field. You can have the paints, the paintings where they need to be, the goals where they need to be, the soccer ball size 5, the uniforms the way they need to be, and so on. But when it comes to playing the game, they'll decide whether they want to be on the defense or the offense. It's based on them. They decide whether they want to show up or not show up, and you have to encourage them to show up. But they'll decide how they want to play, what they want to play. Sometimes you just have to create a field, and they can decide whether they're going to play football or soccer or baseball, based on, again, knowing your children. I think the most important for parents, and again, I'm no expert, but is first and foremost to know your child. And based on that knowledge, you create the structure for your child. But you have to know your child first. What Einstein famously said that everybody's a genius. They asked him, "You're a genius, Mr. Einstein. Do you think everyone?" He said, "Everybody's a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then he'll grow up his whole life thinking that he's stupid." And it's true in education in particular that I might have some fish and I'm forcing them to climb a tree. What type of a parent am I? If I have a fish as a child, then let me teach him how to swim. And some parents say, "No, you have to become a doctor. You have to do this." Well, he's a fish. He's not going to climb a tree. So you're taking away his genius from him. So you can create a field, you can create a boundaries, you can create structure, but you have to allow the person to show up the way God made him, not the way you want to make it. Yeah.
Rabbi, have you thought at all, or you personally used yourself, AI and the role that it might play in the whole idea of what you were talking about earlier, really trying to find our purpose and know that your soul is living out what it's meant to do while it's here? And I ask that in the context of, AI, when used that it's when used properly, is removing boundaries that used to be there before that would block people from exploring certain ideas or maybe like evolving into their most productive or useful self. And I've been fascinated because I think in some ways it also can help you tap into your own consciousness. And I've thought a lot about what role God is maybe playing through this revolution, if you will, that's come for us. And I'm just wondering if you've kind of thought about this at all.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, particularly in the lenses of my mentor, Rabbi Dean Steinsaltz, a blessed memory. I remember that, and this might answer the question or might not, but I remember being at a conference of scientists with him in San Diego some 15 years ago. He was getting so bored at one point, he said, "Just take me to the zoo. I want to see the panda." Because he loved animals. But I remember his lecture very, very well, and I think that he had the foresight of seeing what will happen with AI. And his lecture was that knowledge is good, and the spread of knowledge is very good, but it can only be productive and fruitful if you have the wisdom to know how to use it. If you don't have the wisdom to know how to use it, then it can become very destructive and dangerous. And he gave the example of Iran back then. Iran can develop an atomic bomb. It has the knowledge to do anything and everything it wants, but they don't have the wisdom to know how to use it. And this is true on a global level, but it's true on an individual level. AI can give me all the knowledge I want. In 1 second today, I can know anything about everything. But to have the wisdom to know how to then use that knowledge and navigate it towards my skills, my talents, my purpose, my mission. I think that's why you need a mentor, someone that's not a robot, someone that's much wiser than you are, that can tell you how to use that knowledge. I think that's why we need the Torah, that gives us that wisdom to know how to use the knowledge that is literally at our fingertips today, more than ever. So AI is good as long as we have the wisdom to use it, to know how to use it. And I think it's particularly true in education that our children have a ton of knowledge. They don't need us for information anymore. They have Google, they have AI, they have everything that they want today. But they need us for wisdom. They need us for knowing how to use that, to discern what's important, what's not, to discern what is fitting to them and what is not fitting to them, to discern what will enhance their mission and what will, God forbid, squash it. For that, you need wisdom. I won't tell you that. And that's where a Selech Harav comes in, making yourself a mentor comes in, and that's where our education, again, it's very much connected because it's not like we're trying to change information. It's not like we're trying to impose our own information on the information that is maybe more accurate than ours. We're just trying to navigate it, to create a structure so that it can be as productive as possible.